Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER Attorneys providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. The state's health commissioner says some of the metrics used to track the spread of COVID-19 are trending in the wrong direction.
It means we need to hunker down in the areas where we see spread.
Ahead, the latest COVID-19 data and what they mean as we head into the flu season. The state's new guidance on long-term care facility visitations may finally provide caregivers the chance to see their loved ones after months of lockdowns. But for some, it's too late.
What we're doing is wrong.
Coming up, why not everyone believes this new guidance will make a difference. Monroe County election officials are preparing for thousands of people to vote by mail. Ahead, we go to Election Central and learn more about the 20 steps involved in just getting a ballot to your door. Those stories plus the latest news headlines right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Hello and welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Perry Metz in this week for Joe Wren. Governor Eric Holcomb says he's not rethinking his decision to lift almost all COVID-19 restrictions statewide, even as several COVID metrics have started to trend in the wrong direction. The state's positivity rate is up and hospitalizations are at their highest level in a month. 2 weeks ago, Indiana's rate of COVID spread was 6th best in the nation. It's now 4th worst.
That doesn't mean that we go back to 4.5 or 4. It means we need to hunker down in the areas where we see spread, and that's what we're doing.
Indiana Health Commissioner Dr. Chris Box says the state's numbers underscore the need to take proper precautions.
Wearing our masks, washing our hands, socially distance, not going to work or school if you're sick, getting tested, and engaging with our contact tracers. That's how we prevent the spread.
Local governments can still impose more stringent COVID restrictions than the states. Monroe County continues to limit gathering sizes at public and private events. Positive COVID-19 cases in the county are declining, which correlates with the decrease in cases at Indiana University. The county's 7-day positivity rate peaked during the first week of September at about 11%, but now it's down to 2.7%. And at IU, only 9 Greek houses remain in quarantine. That's down from a high of more than 30. For months, thousands of residents in Indiana nursing homes have been isolated. Despite a state program that aims to increase visitation, checks and balances are limited. As Brock Turner reports, Indiana's facility-first policies are hurting both residents and their caregivers.
Vicki Ayers fights back tears as she remembers her mother Carolyn, who died just a month ago.
She loved to travel and eat out, and we would take her out several times a week for outings, and when they locked down, that was over. They wouldn't even take them out in the facility bus for a drive around or anything. They took everybody and made their worlds that were small, even smaller.
Ayers' mother lived in this Delphi nursing home, just up the road from her and her husband's farm. When the pandemic began, Ayers says she considered moving her mom out of the facility, but she was concerned because there wasn't an accessible bathroom in her home.
I didn't feel like, at the time, that it was the best thing for her or for my family. I didn't feel like I was set up properly in my home to be able to have her here. 6 months later, knowing what I know now, do I wish I had done that? Yes.
The situation quickly spiraled. Ayers says staff at the St. Elizabeth Healthcare campus kept her mom isolated in the facility's COVID-19 wing for weeks, even after she tested negative multiple times. The company, which is one of the largest nursing home operators in the Midwest, declined an interview and did not comment on the facility's policies, stating that it would be an invasion of resident privacy. According to Ayers, it gets worse, though. She says her mom and other residents went months without receiving a proper shower, and staff restricted visits, even window visits, from caregivers. Andrea Smothers is the ombudsman who serves the area. She says nursing homes across Indiana have been forced to interpret vague guidance, and that's leading to significant variation.
The guidance that they were given, pretty much from our perspective as advocates, gave a lot of control to those facilities on how or when or under what circumstances they would allow visitors.
That visitation guidance from the Indiana State Department of Health was updated to reflect the latest federal language. It outlines clearer procedures, but sets a high bar for indoor visitation. For example, a facility is not recommended to resume visitation unless it has no new cases for 14 days, its county positivity rate remains low, and residents are notified. However, multiple Indiana ombudsmen who serve as advocates for caregivers and their loved ones say facilities are doing a poor job communicating these visitation policies and updating caregivers on the changes.
Those changes and that lack of communication, I think, builds a distrust by the caregivers, and that the facilities somehow have this power to just do whatever they want.
However, a state program designed to increase access to facilities is plagued with problems and inconsistencies. Instead of creating uniform visitation protocols, Indiana's Essential and Compassionate Caregiver Program has produced a patchwork of guidance that experts and caregivers say is poorly communicated and gives too much power to facilities. The department declined an interview for this story, but provided a statement saying, in part, recognizing the importance of this essential caregiver role, we have encouraged this in facilities. Applications are not required to be submitted to the State Department of Health, so we do not have any data on the number of applications accepted or denied. During the state's weekly COVID-19 briefing, the Secretary of the Indiana Family and Social Services Administration said caregivers can still file a complaint with the Department of Health if they feel a facility has wrongly denied their application or isn't meeting visitation requirements.
And we work very closely with the long-term care associations. We have biweekly phone calls with the long-term care facilities, work with them to really work through what does visitation look like? How can we do it safely? And when our surveyors go out, when our infection preventionists go out, they are seeing whether or not they're doing visitation. And of course, we always take family complaints or concerns, and we'll follow up on those. So thankfully, we have not really seen spread from visitation.
But families with loved ones in long-term care facilities know their time is limited. They're tired now how it is, and many don't have the resources or time to file complaints with the facilities or the state.
What we're doing is wrong, and it's wrong to an extent that I don't think most people are aware of.
Ayers and other advocates say they don't understand why more people aren't outraged that a policy made months ago out of necessity remains in effect, especially when rapid testing capacity is available for athletes, college students, and numerous other populations.
It is abuse. At this point, it is abuse because it is long-term. It isn't the short-term health crisis solution to the first month worth of the pandemic. We don't know how this is going to happen. Now, it's abuse.
And that's why she and others say they're going to continue advocating for visitation.
They could make it work. And it's not that they can't. It's that they won't. And that's wrong. So even though my journey is over with my mom, I have to speak for those people that are left.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Brock Turner.
Some members of Bloomington City Council are concerned about the mayor's budget proposal. They say Mayor John Hamilton isn't considering their input and is only focused on funding his own vision and priorities.
I do not see the administration as being collaborative or forthcoming in this budget process. And I haven't seen it in any of my many years on the city council.
The council says the mayor didn't make any changes from the time of the budget hearings in August to presenting his final version this week. The council is scheduled to vote on the full budget in less than 2 weeks. They're concerned, among other things, about the lack of money for pedestrian and bike lanes and the new position of the Transportation Demand Manager going into the Economic and Sustainable Development Department budget instead of the Planning and Transportation budget. Hamilton, for his part, says he welcomes input and collaboration. The Lake Monroe Sailing Association is the first inland lake to receive the state's Clean Marina designation. The program recognizes efforts to reduce the environmental impact from pollutants associated with marinas and boats. It provides technical assistance and guidance to marinas and recreational boaters. As Pat Bean reports, the marina has dedicated nearly a year making changes to meet the higher environmental standards.
Dozens of sailors store their boats at the Lake Monroe Marina. Association General Manager Walter Johnson has been leading the efforts to make environmental improvements at the property. Those include a new area away from the lake where members can do maintenance on their boats without putting pollutants into the lake.
I just think as a organization, we should be being the best corporate citizens we can be, and part of that includes being environmentally sensitive.
The association also has spill kits available for boaters who have issues on the water. It has added a new pump-out station nearby so boaters can safely discharge water, among its upgrades.
We created standardized work areas. We increased our recycling program. We increased our training. We did a lot of signage. It's just a whole series of little things that add up to one big thing, I guess.
Marinas must complete a checklist of 100 items to qualify for the program, which is voluntary. The Lake Monroe Sailing Association scored 96 on its application. Indiana Department of Environmental Management Assistant Commissioner Julia Wickard says the average score was 80.
I think it takes everyone to do their part. That's the beauty of this program and other programs that are environmentally or watershed based, that if each one and each entity does their part, then the greater whole accomplishes more.
The Lake Monroe Sailing Association is one of 3 marinas at the Lake Monroe, and Johnson is hoping the other 2 marinas follow suit.
I would challenge other clubs to do it because it's not hard. It just takes time and effort.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Pat Bean.
The Lake Monroe Sailing Association is the 6th marina in the state to be designated clean by the program, which began in 2014. The other 5 clean marinas are along Lake Michigan. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Election officials are preparing to process thousands of absentee ballots. Ahead, we visit Election Central. During this week's debate, President Trump called on his supporters to watch the polls closely. His comments are fueling concerns about possible confrontations at polling places. Ahead, a political analyst joins us to talk about what he thinks we can expect on Election Day. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
There is no parallel for this election in 2020.
Trust is everything. There will be a respectful and fair exchange of ideas.
PBS has held a special place in people's lives. People trust us.
We need to understand what's going on. We need to go behind the story and under the story.
Not just to find out what happened, but why it matters.
2020 will be a political roller coaster, but viewers can count on PBS to be there every step of the way.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. A federal judge says mail-in ballots postmarked by Election Day and received by November 13th must be counted. This week's ruling overturns an Indiana law that required all mail-in ballots to be received by noon on Election Day in order to be counted. The ruling comes in a lawsuit filed by Common Cause and the NAACP, which argues that thousands of people voting by mail because of the coronavirus risk having their ballots not counted because of slow mail delivery and other factors outside their control. With Hoosiers statewide requesting mail-in ballots in record numbers, reporter Mitch Legan spoke with Monroe County's election supervisor to see how she's preparing for the November election.
Everybody's got a red pen.
As the county election supervisor, Karen Wheeler's #1 job is ensuring Monroe County's elections go smoothly. But 2020 has spared no one, and she now has to deal with a global pandemic and an influx of mail-in ballots in the lead up to an exceedingly contentious presidential election.
8,800 ballots went out on Saturday, and today and yesterday we processed probably 650 more, and we'll have more today. We haven't gotten our mail, so the numbers will go up.
For context, the 2016 election saw 3,300 mail-in ballot requests. The county's more than tripled that, and there's still about a month to go until the deadline for requesting absentee ballots. Diane Locke is one person who will be voting absentee this election. She'll be out of town November 3rd and says voting by mail is just more convenient than voting early, especially when you take COVID into consideration.
I've seen other states have the long lines in our primary, and it wasn't pleasant for people, with or without COVID. So long lines sound terrible.
Wheeler says the increased workload has added stress at Election Central, but voters shouldn't be concerned about the county's ability to handle the increased workload. The primaries earlier this year worked as a test run of sorts.
I had 23,000 applications. That just blew our socks off, because coming off of 3,300 to 23,000, it was astronomical of trying to get the process down and to get those ballots out the door.
Everyone who wanted an absentee ballot got one, thanks in part to the state lifting restrictions on why people could request one. But Indiana is one of a handful of states that requires an excuse for voting absentee, and those restrictions are back in for the general election. Wheeler says even though a reason is necessary, the excuses provided should cover people, even if the coronavirus isn't one of them.
So if I get yours, Mitch, and I see that you've marked that, I just accept it. I don't question it. We pretty much take face value what you tell us, and it's not we're not the voter registration police or excuse police. We take what you say because it's a legal document.
And she says while concerns about voter fraud are legitimate, especially with mail-in voting, they're largely overblown. Election workers have about a 20-step process just to get a ballot to your door, and then have another dozen steps to confirm your ballot's legitimate when you turn it back in.
I think we do an excellent job. It is possible for a person to get 2 ballots. I will say that. It's very rare, and it has happened in the past, but they will not both count.
Frankly, it's not a very smart crime to try to commit. There's a paper record to track back to somebody. Most of the attempts at fraud, though, are caught because you have that record, and particularly with mail voting, it's very easy to track back to because there is that paper trail to track back to anybody that might attempt to commit frauds.
While Wheeler expects absentee requests to continue coming in, she's also bracing for increased numbers of people physically going to the polls.
And I have others that definitely want to vote early voting, and there's those that they definitely want to come on Election Day. And I find that very interesting, that it's not everybody wants a mail ballot. There's certain ones that want to do it the way they've done it before, and this is how they feel comfortable.
Early voting will start October 6th and last until November 2nd. If you're going to vote in person, polling places will have enhanced safety protocols, including disinfecting voting stations, mandatory masks, and keeping voters properly distanced. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Legan.
President Trump's attacks on the integrity of mail-in voting and on the election itself have raised questions about whether the president will accept the results. IU professor Leslie Lenkowski is an expert on civic engagement and has been hosting a series of campaign discussions. He's with us now. Professor Lenkowsky, how will the diagnosis that the president has just received that he has the coronavirus affect the election?
Well, I think the president would probably have liked to focus on other issues besides his handling of coronavirus. Most polls indicate a majority of Americans don't think he's doing very well on that. Now that he himself and his wife have the virus, it's going to be very difficult for him to avoid this issue to the extent he'd like to. May even restrict his ability to go out campaigning, which is another part of his strategy.
Now, the president may win the election, but what happens if he loses and refuses to cede the office?
Well, there are a lot of steps before that's going to happen, a lot of ifs built into that. But the key thing to remember is on January 20th, if Donald Trump insists that he still wants to stay in the White House, the president at the time, a person named Nancy Pelosi under our Constitution, who becomes president if there's not a duly elected president, will undoubtedly serve an eviction notice.
We're used to receiving most results on election night itself. How different do you expect the counting to be this year because of the very large increase in mail-in voting?
Not a lot. I think it's important to remember that many states, including Indiana, are already processing in one way or another the mail-in votes. It's going to continue. And while there will undoubtedly be votes coming in after Election Day, it's probably going to be a relatively small portion of the total. We also know that when we look at votes as they're being counted, we pay attention, at least the people looking at elections, pay attention to key precincts and get a sense as to what the differences are. 4 years ago, when I was on WTIU election night, at about 9:15, I said that it looked like it was going to be a good night for Donald Trump. And the reason I thought that was the case was because, A, he was doing better than expected in Indiana, and B, we were beginning to get results from Wayne County, Detroit. And Mrs. Clinton was running well behind Senator Obama on that.
We just have a few seconds left. I wonder if you're concerned about post-election violence.
I think that is a concern. About 1 in 3 Americans of both parties now feel that a certain amount of violence is justified. We've normalized this, and it goes before Donald Trump. Remember the movements to occupy Bloomington and other places. I think it's a real danger. I wish it weren't going to occur, but hopefully we will have sufficient law enforcement.
Thanks for sharing your perspective with us. Professor Lenkowsky is a professor in the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs at IU.
Thank you.
An 8th person is scheduled to be executed next month in Terre Haute. Orlando Hall was among 5 men who prosecutors say kidnapped and killed a Texas teenager in 1994. Hall's attorneys say the selection of an all-white jury for his sentencing displayed racial bias. Hall's execution is scheduled for November 19th. The Trump administration has executed 7 people this year after a nearly 2-decade hiatus from federal executions. Neither President Donald Trump nor Vice President Joe Biden have passed through Indiana this campaign season, but Libertarian candidate Jo Jorgensen has visited the Hoosier state. As Pat Bean reports, she made a campaign stop in Westfield.
South Carolina businesswoman Jo Jorgensen spoke to a crowd of hundreds, laying out a platform that touched on drug use, the criminal justice system, and coronavirus restrictions. Jorgensen says she would decriminalize marijuana and encourage states to treat drug abuse as a mental health issue, not a criminal one.
There should be no law to prevent you from owning an object, whether it's a gun to protect yourself or drugs for whatever reason you wish. If there is no victim, there is no crime.
Jorgensen vows to pardon everyone at the federal level who has committed a victimless crime, saying that would help alleviate the over-incarceration of people of color. Jorgensen also supports ending qualified immunity for police officers and privatizing health care. And she's also hoping voters' frustrations with COVID-19 restrictions will drive them to the Libertarian Party.
Vote with your feet, vote with your dollars. If you want to vote for a mask, then you can shop at Walmart. If you don't want to vote for a mask, you can shop in another store. There shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all, definitely coming from the federal government.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Pat Bean.
Indiana University's football team has been almost entirely COVID-free since daily testing began last week. But head coach Tom Allen is preparing for the possibility of losing players and coaches to the virus, as some other teams have this season.
Before, it was always about the players on the field having to step up. Now we're talking about coaches having to rise up and maybe have to call a game that they weren't expecting to call when the season started.
IU Athletics has performed more than 1,200 rapid daily tests since beginning the program last week, with just one positive test by an auxiliary staff member. That's the end of this program, but please stay with us online as we cover the news throughout the week. Thank you.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER attorneys providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.